Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Upward and Onward. I'm joined by Eric Moyal, and today you'll get a chance to hear about some of the cool things he's done in the past and what he's up to now, like being the founder of Project Insulin, who are aiming to make insulin more accessible and affordable for people in need. Eric, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So good to see you. How you doing?
Absolutely. Yeah, doing well.
Yeah.
Just moved into the building, so
That's right.
shout out CIC Providence for having me, and
shout out.
RiHub.
That's right.
I'm in their incubator program.
Oh, it's so good to sit down with you, though, and it's very interesting. We met in this building maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think like a month or so.
Yeah, formally. And I remember hearing about what you're doing, and I was just like, that is amazing. Like, that is so impactful, and I think that it's important, and more people need to know about this topic, so I'm ready to dive in, and thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think what will be helpful for our listeners and our viewers is to get a sense of who you are and your background, if you're willing to share.
Yeah, no problem. So Eric Moyal, nice to meet everybody.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of Project Insulin, but I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Ooh.
So moved up north to Brandeis University in Waltham, small little liberal arts school. Go to college, did that, did a master's degree, then I worked at Brandeis, then I got a second master's degree, and then Project Insulin happened. And
Wow.
I think that's like the very short timeline of what I've been up to.
Interesting. So you are an entrepreneur now. Would you say that this entrepreneurial spirit that you have was something that you saw in yourself early in your life, or was it something that maybe is a new thing for you?
So when you sent me the questions, I was like very curious about this one because someone has asked me this very recently, like a few days ago.
Okay.
And I said no.
Okay.
But what I then ended up saying was in 8th grade, we had a trip to Washington, D.C. It was like our 8th grade trip. And I needed to, raise the money to go on the trip because it's tickets and whatever. And so I sold chocolates.
Interesting.
So we went to Costco, bought chocolates, put them in like a little container.
Okay.
And then I sold each chocolate bar for $1.
Love that.
So yes.
Yes.
Like there's entrepreneurial spirit, but it's not like I came into, college and like my adult life thinking I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was actually interested in sports management.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. So
really
I did like internships, worked for the Patriots.
Oh, nice.
Was the mascot for Major League
You were the
Lacrosse.
mascot?
Boston Cannons.
You were the mascot.
For the Boston Cannons for one game.
For one single game.
Yeah.
Why? It didn't last much longer?
The guy, the regular mascot was out that day, and they needed somebody. And it was so there's an injury.
Actually, though.
And it was so hot that I it was at Harvard Stadium is where they played that year.
Okay.
And it was so hot that I took the suit off in the back of the stadium and passed out for 40 minutes.
No way.
And so it's the cannon head is on the floor and I'm wearing the pants and shoes and it's there's a street view so people could have seen me.
They definitely did.
And so half an hour later I wake up, I'm like, oh, I need to get back on the field.
Yeah.
And then my boss was like, where were you? I was like, I just took a quick little break.
Yeah.
It was halftime. I missed a bunch of things.
I believe it.
Okay.
They were probably looking for the mascot and you're just passed out over there. Which is fine. At least you're okay, right? You were okay after that?
I was okay. I had a little water.
Okay.
The sun went down. It was good.
All right. I'm happy to hear that. I have also ironically been a mascot for only one game, and I think that was good enough. Most people who are watching this, you probably didn't know that, but yeah.
What were you the mascot for?
It was high school. It was homecoming. It was probably our junior year of high school, and one of my good friends, he, for some reason, wanted to be the mascot. Actually, it was because he would have gotten winter ball tickets for free. So
is this a Rhode Island thing?
It is a Rhode Island thing.
Okay.
It's a Johnson High School thing as well. The winter ball dance is around Christmas time, and everyone gets dressed up for prom, prom dresses and all that stuff. And at the time, whoever would be the mascot for the homecoming football game would get free tickets. So
I see.
You can see how that happened.
Yeah.
I got roped in. I didn't sign myself up, but my friend was like, dude, I'm not going to do it alone, so please do it with me. And I was like, okay, we'll do it. And that was it. But very funny that you also were a mascot, and it's really cool to hear how you had that experience as a child being an entrepreneur, really.
Right,
and how you're now an entrepreneur formally and what you're up to now. What I'm curious about, though, is you said that you were interested in going to school for sports management, but you got a bachelor's degree in business administration. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, so I went into college not really I mean, I knew I wanted to do sports.
Okay.
I didn't know exactly what that meant. I had loved sports, played basketball in high school, played tennis in high school, tried out for the Brandeis basketball team a few times.
Oh, yeah?
Didn't make it.
Okay. All right. Well,
It
they
happens.
lost.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I like went in not knowing, and what I did, because it was a liberal arts schools, you could just take whatever classes you want. So I did, 5 courses out of 10 for a psychology major and dropped it. 4 out of 5 for a legal studies minor and dropped it.
Yeah.
Like, did some econ, did some business, and the business just kind of stuck. So the first class was accounting. I actually failed it the first time. I had to take it again.
Yeah.
Not very good at accounting.
Yeah.
It was also at 8 a.m. So whoever's
that's-
making 8 a.m. classes,
No.
but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll stay on track here. But after the accounting class, everything was like, thinking and participation and collaboration and problem solving, and those are all things that I really enjoy. I don't like puzzles, like in the physical puzzle, but I like puzzles. Like figuring out how to make this work better. And case studies in business school are like a lot of fun because sometimes they blank out the name of the company, and so you don't know exactly who this company is, and you can like. I tell this story pretty often, but there was one for a makeup brand, and my report was they're not going to make it. There's a competitor who's already in the market, and they're much bigger and better, and blah blah blah. And the whole class had the same thought.
Is that right?
And then the company ended up being Ulta Beauty.
Oh man.
And like they've crushed it.
Yes.
And so it's like fun because you can be wrong and it happens, it's always interesting.
That is so interesting. Really cool. And I think that's really really interesting to think about how maybe someone can have their own judgment or perception of, say, a case study or a business and their proposal, and how they can maybe not see that being successful in the future, but how it can turn into something like Ulta Beauty.
Yeah.
I think that just reinforces, for me personally, if there's something out there that's in your mind and it's an idea of yours, you think it's a good idea for you, maybe the people around you, I think there's no better time like now to just go for it. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, I get told I'm wrong all the time.
As you should, right?
Yeah.
At least people give their feedback, and you can take that as you want and work with it.
Yeah.
Nice. So you got your bachelor's in business administration, but for some reason, and you're going to have to let me know why, you went back and you got a master's in international economics. Is that correct?
Yes, international economics and finance. It was a 4+1 degree.
Okay.
So it's like you do one more year of schooling and you get a second degree.
Okay.
The truth is, I don't like math.
Yeah.
And economics and finance is all math, and we already established that I did not pass accounting the first time.
Yeah.
So it was an opportunity to stay in school and try to figure out what I wanted to do a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
And if that also meant I got a master's degree, like, great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the idea. It's half off because you only pay for an extra year of school, and then on top of that, I had scholarship. So
nice.
like it wasn't financially, it wasn't a bad decision.
Yeah.
And for school wise, I really struggled my first 2 years of college.
Yeah.
And so for me, end of sophomore, junior, and senior year were when I was really like starting to hit my stride.
I see.
And it's pretty cool. You can like watch my GPA.
Yeah.
Every year it went from like a 2.4 or something.
Yeah.
And I like slowly made it to a 3.1.
There you go.
And I was
That's
like,
what's up.
yeah, it's like cool to see that like as time went on, I
Yeah.
figured out how school worked. And so I wanted another shot to do school better.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, was that also a motivating factor to get not only one master's degree, but a second in strategic analytics?
No, so the analytics degree was a pure like passion project.
Okay.
So I was working at Brandeis as a fundraiser. And so when you work at a university, one of the perks is you can take classes and do a degree program for free. When I started it was about 6 months after my first master's graduation.
Okay.
So after my second degree, and it was free,
Okay.
fully free, and I was getting paid to work. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. I always liked analytics and the story that you can decipher from analytics. I don't love coding.
Yeah.
But the using the means to an end kind of thing.
Yeah.
For me, that was really cool.
Interesting.
And so now, I mean, I don't use a degree, but I use that like storytelling ability to weave data into why we exist and what we should be doing. That's like a big part of my day to day. So
Wow. Interesting. So cool. And as a 9 to 5, my job, I am a software engineer. So
Okay.
I didn't know that you code. What languages did you use, or?
I don't.
Okay, you don't.
Yeah,
All right, you don't.
I don't. But
Okay.
what I did in the program was R.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
really
I learned R, specifically like marketing analytics R stuff. So nice and fancy graphs and stuff like that, and like regressions and we did, my last project was on predictive analytics.
Ooh.
Which is like almost good enough to like say I could actually code.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I did not. My project did not succeed. Okay. I got the A in the class, which is what matters. Yes. But my teacher and I had a very hard time. I picked a big project, so it was just.
That's fair.
Eyes were bigger than my stomach or my coding capacity.
And that happens, and that's, at least you're willing to admit that. Mm-hmm. I think that's totally. Very noble. Really cool. I was doing my research, as I do, and I saw online that you had done a TED Talk. And for the folks who maybe haven't listened to it, I think you should. I'll post the link right here. But you'll see Eric maybe a couple years younger and with much shorter hair and in an orange suit. Now, those are all things that I gathered quickly, but as I was watching, I learned more about you and some of the experiences that you've had and people who are near and dear to you have had, which was a very, very, very heartfelt TED Talk, I'd say, and something that I was attentively listening to, and I think that we need to talk about it personally. Yeah. Would you begin by just telling the people who don't know what the TED Talk was about?
Yeah, so it was a Tedx talk at Brandeis. So another most of the things I've done in my life were at Brandeis. Yeah. So and it was about this bike ride that I did called Ride for Warriors. Is what I named it, what I branded it as. And it was a fundraising campaign to raise money and awareness for a pair of chronic illnesses that my little sister has. One is called complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS, which is actually pretty famous right now because of the Saving Maya movie. Ooh. I believe that's what it's called. It's something Maya.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. I haven't watched it because apparently it's very traumatic. So if anyone has a chronic illness and is watching it, like, there should be a trigger warning, but there isn't, and the whole community is up in arms about it. But, this rare disease that has 200,000 people that has it is now, a Netflix movie and is like, good. Bringing up a storm
Spread
about
awareness.
Patient advocacy. So I was doing this bike ride campaign, and what I wanted to do was do it in a way that grabs people's attention. And so I'd been thinking about going from Boston to Miami for a while now.
On a bike.
Holy. On a bicycle, not a motorbike.
On a pedal bicycle. Wow.
Man-powered bike.
Okay, all right.
And my sister lives in Miami, and I live in Boston. So, or I did at the time. So, kind of like the imagery of like coming home and being with her and celebrating it with her was part of what I was going for. And so, the other illness is thoracic outlet syndrome, or TOS, which is more common in athletes.
Okay, and that is what exactly for people who aren't familiar?
Yeah, so TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome, is when there's compression between your first rib and something else scientific. It's up here.
Up here.
It's like here technically.
Okay.
And that compression leads to pain, and it usually comes from like a repetitive injury. So think pitchers, swimmers. Well, those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
But for my sister, unfortunately, she got hit by a car while she was biking back home. And when she got hit, the impact pushed her into the street, which is very dangerous. And we're glad that there were no cars and it was okay. But the impact triggered both the complex regional pain syndrome, which is usually an impact kind of disease. It could be as mild as a stubbed toe, as heavy as a car crash. A lot of people, rolled ankles, things like that. And then with thoracic outlet, the compression had happened, and so it led to pain in the area. With complex regional pain syndrome, it's a central nervous system disease. So essentially, your nerves stop working properly.
Okay.
And one of the symptoms is allodynia, which means I know we're getting really scientific here.
Yeah, I like it. This is
great. Allodynia is when your nerves and body start responding to things as if it's pain, even if it's not. So, for example, with my sister, it's touch. So if I touched her shoulder, she would get into like an immense pain flare, and the reason is her brain is telling her that something as light as a brush is incredibly painful. And so a lot of people explain it as like fire ants like coursing through their veins and like biting them. Which actually might not work here because we have fire ants up here.
I haven't seen one here, I don't think. But.
Yeah, they hurt basically.
Yeah,
they hurt, and it's not pleasant. And it's the number one pain like on the McGill pain index, which is like a chronic pain index. It has the highest rate or the highest level.
Wow.
So it is a gnarly disease, and so I wanted to raise money for it, raise awareness. And it's also, unfortunately, a disease where the Taking Care of Maya movie comes into play, where doctors don't believe the patients.
Interesting.
Because it's an invisible illness. So it's an illness that you cannot see on the outside. So a lot of people are told that they're faking it, that they want attention, that it's all in their head. And it's just like a very demoralizing situation. Yeah. And so the bike ride was to raise awareness. We'll stop there if there's more questions on the bike ride specifically, because I can just keep going.
I'm pretty curious if you're willing to share, because did you do it?
I did it.
You did it?
I did it. 1,700 miles, 16 days. The goal was to raise 5,000. I think we raised 6.5 or something.
That's amazing.
And we stayed at people's houses along the way who have CRPS.
Okay.
And so that was really cool too. It was like the people we were doing this for were the people that we stayed with and who supported us. So,
so awesome.
It was awesome.
I can only imagine. Now, I think that's an amazing story, but I am curious, between the start and the finish, were there points where you were just going through it? Because it's a long bike ride, and I don't know if you had been conditioning a lot prior, if you've been an avid bike rider, but how was that?
Yeah, so that was all nonsense. So I had never ridden a road bike before. I'd had like a $100 Target bike, which I used to go to and from Brandeis to work.
Okay.
But my training was, I went to spin classes for 6 months because I started in January.
Okay.
And the ride happened in late June, early July. So it was like dead summer, which was very hot. Yeah. Thankfully, I'm from Florida, so I was used to it. But yeah, it was nasty. And I would do spin classes. And it started as like one class every few days to like every day. Then I was doing 2 classes a day. Like you do them back to back. So there's like a 6 and a 7 o'clock class. And then I got so far into it that I was doing the 2 morning classes, which were at 6 and 7, and the 2 evening classes, which were at 5 and 6.
Wow.
So I was very much like cranking out cycling spin classes.
All in.
Yeah. And the funny part about that is that the classes, the music doesn't change.
Oh, really?
It changes every week.
Oh, it's not like, we listen to this in the morning, but you won't hear it at night.
So if it's the same teacher, whatever, the person in the front, then they usually use the same track for that day, because most likely you're not coming to the same thing twice.
Yeah.
But anyway, I heard a lot of the same, same 5-6 songs over the course of the months. But yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
They probably were playing in your head like as you're trying to fall asleep at a certain point, which is interesting.
Yeah, but it was really nice because like when I was doing the ride itself, there were days where it was really hard. The first day there were thunderstorms.
Oh, is that right?
We were delayed by 2 hours. I was like hiding under a warehouse in the middle of the day because there was lightning. Yeah, I was just like stuck in the middle of Connecticut.
Wow.
And the middle was pretty easy. You kind of like hit a rhythm.
Okay.
And then Florida.
Ooh.
So you get to Florida. It takes half the trip. So it's 8 days to get to Florida.
Just to Florida.
And then Florida is another 8 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like, generally every day I'm passing through a state.
Of course.
And it's like nice.
Nice. Wow, we're doing it.
Check.
Yeah.
Like another one off. Another one bites the dust.
Oh,
but
yeah.
once I got to Florida, it was like it was purgatory. I was just like, I'm like right off the beach, which is beautiful.
Which is nice, yes.
But it's like the same road for 8 days straight.
Oh man.
And the second to last day I fell. My knee swells.
Wow.
Like it was nasty. But I kept going, and then the last day was more jitters because my family and friends were waiting for me at the finish line, because it was at our house was the finish line.
So cool.
And so that was really special and very cool. And like I had a few of my mom's friends
Yeah.
cycle,
Yeah.
and we got in on a Sunday so everyone could come.
Nice.
And so they kind of like train like a train
Oh, that's so
like
cool.
brought me in.
That is awesome.
So it was like a really cool last 20 miles, and it was
I
just
love
special.
that. I absolutely love that. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I'm so proud of you, and I
Thanks.
really think that what you've done has been something that maybe not a lot of people would do, but it takes a certain individual to think about how they can spread awareness and maybe have people donate for a really impactful cause, and then to take it even further and show that you're putting, your money where your mouth is, or just putting your actions behind what your words have said, and taking yourself from Boston to Miami on a pedal bike is incredible to me. I don't think I'll ever do it in my lifetime. I admire the fact that you've done it, and thank you for doing things like that, because it really spreads awareness on something that's really important. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was really cool.
So thank you so much for sharing about your Ride for Warriors initiative and some of the things that you'd done prior to then, being at Brandeis and having multiple degrees, and just fostering that entrepreneurial spirit at a young age. But now looking into the present and the future, you are the founder of Project Insulin. We talked about it briefly in the beginning, but for people who maybe didn't catch that part, can you just tell us what Project Insulin is?
Yeah, so Project Insulin is a nonprofit whose mission is to ensure everyone has access to affordable insulin.
Nice.
So what we're doing is we're creating our own generic insulin, a biosimilar is what it's called in science, in the science field. And we're going to sell it directly to patients at cost. So whether you have insurance or don't have insurance, it's going to be the same price for everybody, and we're going to send it right to your doorstep.
Wow. That is awesome. I know some people who are pre-diabetic and have been diagnosed with diabetes, and knowing that there will be a alternative that is cheaper than maybe what they're able to have access to now is really, really awesome for many different reasons. So that's an awesome initiative. What was the motivation behind starting Project Insulin?
Yeah, so there's a few things. So I was working as a fundraiser at Brandeis. My sister has a chronic illness, right? So that's already something that I've been a part of and we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the board of that nonprofit now.
Oh, nice.
And I help them with their fundraising initiatives. But my sister's illnesses, or at least CRPS specifically, is one without a cure, without a treatment. There is no, like, it's, you get it and it's kind of like you make your makeshift regimen to take care of yourself, but there is no widespread treatments available. And so as a fundraiser, I felt like my impact wasn't as big as it could be in another field. So I was looking for a new job. COVID had just hit. And I met my partner, my relationship partner, and now my business, I guess,
Nice.
or nonprofit partner.
Nice.
And she has type 1 diabetes. And so as we started dating and I learned more about diabetes, I didn't really know much. My grandpa had type 2 when I was younger, and I remember him like taking insulin shots towards the end of his life. But that's really all I knew. And I learned about how expensive insulin is, and the most tragic thing is it's been around for 100 years. It's a drug that's been around for 100 years. The research team from University of Toronto who invented it or found it, they sold the patent for $1. And the reason they did it is because they said, and it's quoted, insulin doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the world. They realized how important this drug is for people with type 1 diabetes and then eventually people with type 2, that it was a drug that they believed everyone should have access to. And so 100 years later, for it to not be affordable was just, shocking. And so I looked into it a little bit more, and the patents for the current insulins have all expired. And so unlike with my sister's illness, this isn't a scientific problem. This is a money problem. Right? If we could raise enough money and make our own generic, we can just sell it as cheaply as humanly possible.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's why we went nonprofit as well, so that we can stick to the mission of getting it to people for as cheap as possible and focusing on access to patients who might not have access to insulin.
Interesting. Wow. That is amazing. I did not know that the patent for insulin was sold for $1 initially. And this is maybe 100 years ago. And they had a good reason for doing that. I feel like living in a capitalistic society, you can often just be so geared to thinking, what's the most that I can get out of something that I've done? And I really feel strongly that the people who think otherwise and they say, well, I want to do something larger than just me and what I can gain, there's other people out there who have a need for this and can benefit from it much more than the dollars that I can amass. And they take that to the next level and they do something that changes the world, similar to what you're doing. They deserve maybe like a Purple Heart is something that they get in the Army, but a Nobel Peace Prize is a little different. I'm trying to think of what it should be, but I'm going to come up with something, and the people who should be highlighted will get the medal. And you'll be first in line, honestly.
Well, we have to make it work first.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we'll make it work first.
We'll make it work. We have to first create a drug,
Okay.
go through the FDA process, and then figure out distribution, which is... the FDA and making the drug isn't hard. There's a roadmap. We know how to do it. It's expensive.
Okay.
And on the other hand, the distribution shouldn't necessarily be. It's not as expensive. It will be a little costly because it's a refrigerated product, so it'll cost a little bit more.
Okay.
But trying to get it to the people who need it most, right? Like we're an access organization.
Okay.
You know, some people think we're a cheap drug maker, but we're really an access provider, right? We're unlocking access for people who don't have that.
Yes.
So how do you find the 1.5 million people in the United States who ration their insulin every month?
Yeah.
So who use less than they're supposed to in order to make the insulin they have last longer?
Yeah.
How do you get to their doors? And so while we figure out drug development and fundraising and all that stuff, in the background, we're trying to unlock that question. And a lot of it will be partnerships.
Yeah.
You know, working with healthcare providers, working with companies like Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs. They're selling or they're shipping generic drugs. Working with someone like them. Those are kind of the opportunities available that we're looking into.
Interesting. And to fund the pharmaceutical company that you're a founder of, and it being a nonprofit, how exactly does that all work? Is it something that people who maybe are listening to this podcast and feel strongly about can donate to? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit, which means that if you make a donation today, when you write me a big fat check, it is tax deductible 100%.
Okay.
And you just put in your taxes that you donated to Project Insulin.
Interesting.
You can go to our website,
Yeah.
projectinsulin.org,
Okay.
/donate
Cool.
today.
And
It'll be
right here.
Sweet.
Or somewhere like there.
Yeah. Or right there.
Or right there, maybe.
Yeah, so you can donate through there. You can learn a little bit more about who we are and what we're doing on the website. But one of the biggest critiques we've gotten, and people telling me I'm wrong, which we started earlier, was that we went nonprofit. Why didn't we go for profit or a social good like a B Corp where every vial we sell we give a vial away, something like that. And the reasons are I'm a fundraiser in nonprofit fundraising. That's my skill set. I've built this company based on the skill set that we can raise money and then outsource the drug development process, right? Like focus on my skill and then trust the professionals to do the drug making. But on top of that, just like the purity of the mission, we're trying to guarantee the cheapest possible price for patients and ensure that everyone has access to that. That is something really special, and I want to make sure it lasts past me, right? So if I'm not, if I'm not here or if I go off and do something else, that is still a core part of what Project Insulin is. And as a nonprofit, we can keep that. And finally, it signals to our base, whether it be the future donors or the patients, that we are, we're in it for the mission. We're not in it for anything else.
Yeah, so important. I think that people really gravitate towards supporting or even being affiliated with things that are authentic, like knowing that the people behind it are doing it for the greater good, and everyone can sense that. So for the people listening and watching, Eric Moyal is doing something really special, and if you have maybe a couple extra bucks and feel strongly about the mission that he's on to make insulin more affordable and accessible for people, I'll put the link once more, and just consider it. So
that wasn't the best plug on earth. I don't know what it is.
I mean, I'm trying. No, really though. I think that, I think more people can be more charitable, myself included. So I'm hoping to do more of that, and it wouldn't be the best thing if I was just saying this right now and wasn't putting my money where my mouth is. So I'm going to do that.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I will do that.
And we have you can do monthly. You don't have to give
okay.
like a big sum.
Okay.
You can just give $5 a month or
Okay.
whatever it might be. So it's
Yeah.
again, it's access to insulin. But like, if you want to be a part of our organization, you
Yeah.
can do it through donating. You can be a volunteer. You can just follow us on socials. Like
That's
that.
right.
That also helps.
That's right.
Which you can find here, and
here, and here. Instagram here.
Yeah.
Twitter.
We have a Twitter. We just got a Threads yesterday.
Threads.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a Facebook.
Okay.
And then LinkedIn's the one I'm mostly on.
Okay.
Because I use it for professional things.
Makes sense.
That's where I network and meet people. So
Yeah.
that's usually where I post the most.
Okay. Well then, you guys will see it.
Yeah. Just
It'll be
floating
everywhere.
all over the internet.
Oh, that's funny. Thank you for sharing about a lot of the things that you're doing with Project Insulin. Looking into the future, what are some of the long-term goals for Project Insulin?
So first, we have the 5-year horizon. In about 5 years, we're hoping to have developed and gotten FDA approval for our own generic insulin. Insulin glargine, which is the long-acting, it's the one that the most people probably use.
Okay.
And get that out and get that to patients around the country,
Okay.
U.S. specifically. After that, our goal is to, get more insulins out there. There's short-acting, long-acting, and a couple more. Basically, it's the how quickly the insulin releases into the body. And so you take your long-acting in the morning, and it kind of goes on through the day, and then you would adjust. When you're eating a meal, for example, if you have like a carbier meal, you'll take fast-acting insulin in the moment to counteract those carbs.
I see.
And so we potentially would have more generic insulins, potentially move to other parts of the world, figure out how to get insulin in places where it's not really readily available.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of the two big goals that we have: is get it in the U.S., make sure everyone has access to affordable insulin. I mentioned 1.5 million people can't afford their monthly supply in the U.S. The goal is to make that zero, right? That's goal one. Once we do that, it's off to the other parts of the world. Make sure that they're unable to afford, unable to access is also zero.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that, because you're thinking much larger than just, say, Rhode Island or even the Northeast or even the U.S. You're thinking globally.
Yeah, I want to make sure that, we're not a cure, right? We're kind of... I actually talked about this recently with somebody. We're like a Band-Aid, right?
Okay.
We're here to kind of plug the hole until someone finds a cure. But it's not just until they find the cure. It's until they find the cure and they make the cure affordable.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the cure will be found, and then 20 years later, the cure will be available to everyone.
Yeah.
Until that day happens, we're here to make sure that nobody is, dying. Nobody is making decisions whether to buy insulin or food or go to school or, whatever it is, take the job that has worse insurance, right? We want to make sure that it's accessible and that we can help people along their journey, whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
And I feel like the whole lack of insulin has been exacerbated by the use of Ozempic, at least from my familiarity with the matter, and that maybe Hollywood people are using it for their dietary purposes instead of...
So it's a weight loss drug. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ozempic is a weight loss drug that is used specifically for people with type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
With type 1 diabetes, it wouldn't help at all.
Okay.
With type 2, there are factors that are non-genetic that lead to having type 2 diabetes. What the Ozempic crisis has shown is not that it's not like insulin related. It's insulin adjacent because it's still diabetes. What it has shown is that they don't have enough of the thing, right? And it's not being, it's not being only sold to patients who actually need it. It's being sold to people who, want to lose weight. Which is fine, but Ozempic and those kinds of drugs are better for people with type 2 than insulin is. Insulin is kind of like a last resort drug. It's when your pancreas completely stops working.
I see.
And so having access to something like Ozempic would be really important in helping people with type 2, because you can get out of having type 2 diabetes.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Type 1 diabetes, though, you can't.
Okay, I see. I see. Very interesting. I did not know that. Now, with creating insulin, is there a research and development process around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're making our own generic. So we're starting from scratch. It's
Okay.
like you're baking your cake. You need all the ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not as tasty as cake.
No, I believe it.
Yeah, it's a little harder to make, but you go through and first you make a plasmid. A plasmid is your code, and it tells the organism that you put it into to start spitting out insulin, essentially. And so you have to make a plasmid, you put it into the organism, which for us will be E. coli. You put it in the E. coli, it starts spitting out insulin, you check, there's a few other things, but you check that it's not toxic, make sure that it's doing the right things, you test it on some animals, and then once you finish that, you go to FDA, you're like, hey, we're ready to put it in people.
Yeah.
First clinical trial is to make sure it's not toxic to humans, and then you do third clinical trial, so phase 1 and then phase 3, which is to make sure that it works as well as the original product. Because we're making a generic, it's a little cheaper and faster, because we're just trying to prove it works similar to something else. We're not trying to show that we've made something new and exciting. We're just, we took the wheel and we painted it red, right?
I like that, yeah.
It's a little bit harder than just painting, but yeah.
Good analogy. And it is probably harder than just painting.
Yes.
Now, you have been the founder of Project Insulin for some time now. Have there been any key lessons that you've learned during this time?
Yeah, so I've learned a lot. So first, I didn't know anything about drug development. I was a fundraiser at a university.
Yeah.
The closest thing I got to drug development was like taking a bio professor to lunch and introducing them to a donor.
Okay.
So
not that close.
not very close.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn all about drug development, not enough to go do it myself, but enough to talk about it and, convey to people that I know what the steps are, what we need, who we need on board, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think like the biggest lesson has been, trusting people. This is like your baby.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have to, in order to make this move forward, I need more people on board.
Yeah.
But I can't have people on board if I don't trust them.
That's fair.
And so like letting go of your baby is really hard. And yeah, that's been one of the key lessons for me, is kind of being more trusting with people and letting them like in, right? People want to help. If you'd like to help, you can click right here to volunteer.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that's kind of been one of the bigger lessons, is like allowing people in and allowing people to move things forward.
I see. Interesting. It's really, I imagine, hard sometimes when you've thought about something and worked so hard on it for so long, and you feel like, I know what I want this to become. I don't know if everyone else knows what I want this to become. And of course I want their help, but in a certain manner, and kind of giving that autonomy to others to iterate as well as innovate. So any entrepreneur, I'm sure, can relate, and aspiring entrepreneurs, listen to Eric Moyal. You'll have probably that same sentiment, but from his experiences, highlighting that and really making sure that you're aware of it is important, and it'll allow you and the people you work with to work more effectively, I think, and collaborate much more efficiently, if you will.
And collaboration is like such an important part. I think in for-profits it's a little different, so you don't quote me on this. But as a nonprofit, like collaborating with other nonprofits, partnering with other for-profits, and things like that are really, really important and impactful. I think a lot of the time nonprofits are siloed.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're a diabetes nonprofit, but they're also a diabetes nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so in a state like Rhode Island, where it's very small and all the donors are, intermingled, it's the same people. It's harder to collaborate because, I want their money and you want their money, right?
Yeah.
But there are ways, Diabetes Awareness Month in November, spreading the same videos, sharing each other's videos and posts and events and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's ways to collaborate without, gouging each other's eyes out.
That's fair. Yeah. It's important too. There is definitely ways that you can help, more than just a monetary aspect, but also just spreading awareness, just being a support person, right? Like if it's even liking something or sharing it. So those things go a long way too.
Right, like sharing this interview.
Oh,
so that's a two-way plug.
Hey now. So I didn't have to say it, but if you've enjoyed this episode so far, please like, subscribe, and please go check out Project Insulin. That's all, folks. Nothing more. We're not asking for too much. Oh, that's good. Before we jump to the next topic, is there anything else that you'd like to share about Project Insulin?
No, I think I'm very excited for where we are, what we've done. Shout out to any and all of our volunteers and advisors and advisory board and board of directors who are listening to this. Thank you for all your help along the way. And I'm excited to keep moving forward. We're getting really close to starting drug development.
Exciting.
Properly doing it.
That's exciting.
And it's really cool to talk about wanting to do the thing. That we're going to be doing the thing really soon, and that's just
that's the stuff.
It's the stuff.
That's the stuff. Nice. Thank you so much for sharing about your experiences so far as being the founder of Project Insulin. Now, we've talked about work and getting a degree in business administration, a master's degree in international economics, and another master's in strategic analysis. What do you like to do in your free time?
Yeah, I'm a big outdoors guy, and I'm also a big nerd.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, nice.
Not once a week anymore, but early COVID, we played once a week.
Ooh.
Now it's probably once a month.
Okay.
I play a lot of video games.
Yep.
Ultimate Frisbee.
Nice.
I told you I'm leaving. Right after this, I'm heading over to play some Frisbee. Basketball, tennis, hiking, camping.
Nice.
I just love being outside, and I love being inside.
Yes, me too. I will enjoy both settings.
Yeah.
But maybe sometimes one more than the other, which that happens to gravitate towards me being inside looking at a screen, whether if it's coding, podcasting, playing video games. So
yeah.
That's awesome. So you got a good mixed bag. Would you say, if you had to say your favorite restaurant in Rhode Island, what would you say it is?
Ooh, so I've only been here for 9 months.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I moved here in September.
I did not know that. I thought that you had been here for quite some time.
I'm just entrenched on the community.
Yeah, you are. You're on the ground.
Yeah, I try to, at least in this community, the entrepreneurship space, because it's so, shout out Rhode Island. You're all so warm. Everyone here is just so nice.
Yes.
Coming from Boston, they have a name for a reason. I don't know if I can curse on here.
Yeah,
but,
you can let it fly.
They're called massholes for a reason.
Yeah.
But coming down here, it's just everyone's been so warm and willing to help, and it's just really exciting. When we met, you literally invited me to a barbecue that you hadn't planned yet. I don't know if you ever did, but I met you and you invited me to a barbecue, and we've known each other for 3 minutes.
Was it the Eats? Or sorry, it's called the Eats. It's a barbecue that I go to every year.
I don't know.
I think we never
got that far
because it was that time in the summer. So yeah, I did, and that's just kind of how it goes, at least from my experience. What I know, I'm willing to share, and other people have the same sentiment. So there is definitely that sense of community, that close feeling of camaraderie, at least in my experiences being in Rhode Island, and especially in a space like this. So please, I can't wait to go to a barbecue and hang out with you. Let's do it.
I'm in. I love ribs.
Yeah. Ooh, ribs.
Big ribs fan. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
But in my limited experience here, I heard Harry's is a chain, so I'm not going to count Harry's. But I did like it's very good. It's pretty good. The milkshake, the boozy milkshake, was phenomenal.
I haven't had it yet.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
But not just snacks. Indian food.
Yeah.
I don't know what street it's on. It's
India, somewhere.
It's on a big street.
Yeah, Westminster maybe or something.
That place is delicious. Yep. And then I went to. You're gonna have to cut this out. Another name.
All right.
Something Calzone.
Oh, Mike's Calzones.
Mike's
Calzones on Thayer Street
has a phenomenal chicken shawarma.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
I had it. It's so good.
It's I was skeptical because it was Mike's Calzones.
Mike's Calzones.
But phenomenal shawarma. No. Yeah. Those would be my top so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been trying to get around, but I haven't hit everything yet.
I have some recommendations, and if you have any recommendations for Eric Moyal to try restaurants in Rhode Island, because this place is filled with so much good food. Drop a comment or shoot him a message on LinkedIn and be like, "Hey, I watch your podcast, and you should go try Vendor Ravioli." But that's awesome. Really cool to get a sense of who you are outside of just work. Now, just to close, I have a couple last questions.
Yeah.
When you look back on your life and the things that you're doing now, has there been a person or a mantra or a resource that has really had an impact on your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one was hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not one person that flashes when I think about this, and that person changes over time. But I think the two people who have like had a much bigger impact on my life than they probably think they do are a guy named David Thompson,
Okay.
not the basketball player on the Spurs from the
Okay.
70s.
I was like, okay.
Not that guy.
Not that guy.
Him and Ed King. Ed King is an artist,
Okay.
or was an artist. Now he runs He runs a nonprofit in Seattle. But those two were instrumental in like my growing up as a teenager. So Ed and I played basketball together. And he was like 30, I was like 12.
Okay.
Right. So it was like, a pretty big age difference, but we would play all the time and he'd kick my ass all the time because I was 12.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
He was 30.
That's going to happen.
The worst part is he took videos of all this.
Oh, really?
So like he still texts me like, hey, remember that time where I just like fade away jumper over your face? I was like, I was 12.
I was 12, man.
Like,
come on.
let's play now.
Let's play now. Yes, exactly. That's what I would say.
45 with a bad back.
Ooh,
I got you now.
Let's go.
But Ed and David Thompson, who I call Mr. T, they really had a big impact on me growing up, just showing me what being a good and kind person was like.
Yeah.
Mr. T does SAT and tutoring.
Okay.
I got a concussion my junior year of high school.
Oh, I see.
And so like I needed some extra help.
I see.
And we didn't have a ton of money growing up. And so, he had a very affordable rate, and it turned out that like he jokes now that, I think he charged us like $2,000 for like a year's worth of tutoring.
That's awesome.
That's like no money.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And he's like, yeah, I just assumed at some point I'll like get it back from somebody else. And
Yeah.
it's like that kind of pay it forward attitude that has stuck with me. Ed King, built his own art company. Like he did art and like sold it.
Okay.
And I remember I was there. I wasn't there when he made $1 million, like the day he hit 1,0,0,0,0.
Yep.
But like we played basketball a couple days later, and just like seeing how excited he was, and like hearing about him touring the country in his like little Mazda, like with a bunch of art in his backseat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those two had a really impactful, really impactful relationship and a big impact on me.
Yeah.
Because from a young age, they just showed me like what it is to care for somebody, and we're still friends today.
Nice.
They're both like much older than me, but
but you can learn from them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And they can learn from you too.
Totally, and they've both, Ed now calls me to ask me about fundraising.
I believe it.
Yeah, because he'd never done it.
Yeah.
And now he's the CEO of a nonprofit. So.
Wow. Yeah. Super cool. I love how things come full circle and how people just being kind can pay so many dividends. And I really hope that hearing that and Eric's experiences with just having a good friend, hopefully you highlight those people in your lives and you pay them some gratitude, some sort of thankfulness, so that they know that what they're doing is not all for naught, and they have an impact on your life as well. So and sending those texts out, saying like, I'm thinking about you, like thank you for your help. Last summer for my birthday. Yeah.
So I was on a road trip last summer.
Okay.
Which we didn't get to, but when I quit my job in June.
Okay.
I went on a 3-month road trip. It was like my gift to myself to go start off my own nonprofit.
Yes.
And I went on a 3-month road trip. Went around the country in my car, not on a bike.
All right, ditch the bike. We went in the car.
We went
time.
4 wheels. We doubled the wheels.
Phew.
Yeah. And I was, camping and hiking and all that stuff. And on my birthday, I sent out voice memos to my like 8 or 10 closest friends, just saying how much I appreciated them and like how much they mean to me and like how I missed them because we hadn't seen each other in whatever many months.
Yeah.
They all sent some sort of thank you back afterwards, but more importantly, like when I saw them next, like I got a big old hug and they were like, I missed you while you were gone, but really appreciate that you went out of your way to send that, and that's not something that we get a lot of. So
I have never gotten that, but I am hoping to do that myself. So I'm gonna hold myself accountable by recording this and saying it. I hope to send out messages to people telling them how thankful I am.
I got you to open your wallet for me.
Dude, like,
I got
what's
you
going
to...
on? What's next? Like, anything you want, just take it. You want the watch?
Yeah, it's the art of being a fundraiser.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that fundraising is like kind of sleazy, you know, like the salesman.
Sure.
But from my perspective, it's like, it's the art of building relationships.
Definitely.
And being honest. Like, I don't want you to give me your money if you don't want to, right? Like, because for me, you giving me whatever $10 today is like great, and I'd be happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you giving me $10, you know, every month or like every year for the rest of our relationship, that's much more powerful, right?
Definitely.
And I don't want you to just do it out of spite. I want you to do it because you know, care about me, care about what I'm doing, care about the mission, and like feel that your dollars are going to a good place.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so relationship building. People say the skill is fundraising. The skill is relationship building.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And you're an expert at it from when I met you to today. So keep on doing your thing because you're doing a great job. Now, would you say that those same people who have been impactful in your life are people who are role models to you and inspire you? Or are there any other resources, people who kind of motivate you, inspire you, and you keep you going?
Yeah. So for Ride for Warriors, my sister, a lot of the training, like, you know, doing your 3rd and 4th spin classes, listening to Pitbull over and over again.
Oh,
like,
Mr. 305.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to say it.
You know, my hometown artist, right? So you got to love him. But
gotta.
there's enough, listen to the same song enough times where it's hard. But she motivated me at that point. You know, different people motivate me at different points in my life. But I think now it's more like I am motivated by my interests. And it's like, there's no one person anymore. It's like everybody, you know, like my whole board. I remember the first conversation I had about Project Insulin was with someone who I didn't know super well. We went to college together. He's a lawyer, and I was asking him about how to open your own nonprofit and all that stuff. And he said, I love the idea, and more importantly, I like believe in you.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like, you know, after the call, I just started crying.
I believe in you.
And he's on my board now, right? Like I wanted people that believe in me. Unbeknownst to me at the time, the people that believe in me are also the most likely to tell me how wrong I am, which is good. You need those kinds of people.
You do.
But it is hard. It's hard when they do the other thing. Yeah. When they're being nice and they're being really super, you know, telling you how great you are. That's one thing, but when they're being brutally honest, that hurts. But it's needed, and it's an important part. So there's no one person anymore. I think, like, you know, my family, my friends, everyone who supports me. They all motivate me to keep going. It's kind of like building a community where, like, if you fall down, someone picks you up.
Exactly.
So
awesome. So cool. Now my last question here is. Somebody has been listening or watching this episode, and they now know who Eric Moyal is. They now know that he is the founder of Project Insulin, and this person can be thinking to themselves, wow, he's really cool. I love what he's doing, and I'm thinking of doing something similar. What advice would you give to that person? Yeah, deep breath.
I think it's important to surround yourself with those people I just talked about. And, you know, make sure that you're doing it because you love the idea, and you love not even the idea, but you love like the end person who you're helping. I spoke to a marketing guy recently, and he was telling me about the hero's journey. I'm sure you've heard of it. If you haven't, hero's journey is like your classic tale where the hero goes through some trial or tribulation and like has to figure something out, and then like a guide comes and helps them, and like whatever, they beat the big bad at the end, right? Our hero's journey, Project Insulin, is that we are the guide for people with diabetes so that they can go live a better life by not having to pay as much money for their insulin, for being able to afford other things, whatever it might be. It's like your why, essentially, right? So it's really cool like we're not the hero in the story, right? We're here to help somebody else be their own hero, right? Like we're just here to be a part of your journey, right? We're the bridge to the next thing in your life. If that's the kind of organization you're trying to build, making sure you frame it that way and that you're okay with that, right? Like it's cool, like I'm on a podcast, literally there's a spotlight on me, but at the end of the day, like it's not about me, right? Like I'm happy, it's like an exciting thing, I work for myself, I've got all these challenges and puzzles to figure out, but like I'm not the end user, it's not like something that helps me, it's something that helps others. And so if you're looking to get into nonprofit, find who you're guiding, who you're helping. And when you start fundraising, inevitably, I know it's really hard. Asking is really hard, but knowing what you're asking for and preparing and being very honest in your conversation. I don't tell people that like, we're going to have an insulin in 2 years and it's going to be the best thing in the world. Like we're hoping in 5 years, it's very expensive. But you can help us move the needle a little bit further. And if this is something you believe in, come join us. Right. And so, I would say just being upfront and honest, finding your people and finding who you're trying to help.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's even applicable to someone like me.
Totally.
I think anyone can take that and really harness what you just said and make it be useful for them. So thank you, Eric, for those words. Is there any last words before we get out of here that you'd like to mention?
No. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course.
Thank everybody for listening and doing all the things that we plugged along the way, liking, sharing, donating, volunteering, commenting your favorite Rhode Island places to eat.
Do that.
I do like eating, so
I love eating. I love eating.
I'm very, very interested in what you all have to say. Thank you, and I hope to be back on here in like a year or two and telling you all the cool, amazing things that have been going on.
Please, I can't wait personally. I will say thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a important conversation and one that I enjoyed thoroughly. And for the people watching, I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope that if you're in Rhode Island, you'll see Eric and I at networking events, things around. And stay tuned for Eric's return. Hopefully we can make that happen sooner than later. But follow him for his journey, all the cool things that he'll be up to, and we will see you on the next one. Peace out.